Uh, Hello guys, how are you all? Hello guys, am I audible? Uh, just 1 second. Okay, yeah, we are live now. So how are you all guys? There was some technical issue actually, so that we was basically solving. Okay, just give me 1 second. All right. So let me just share my screen. Just give me 1 second. All right. So I hope my screen is visible, guys. Can you get a quick confirmation? Just 1 second. Okay. So we'll be simply going to connect it. And after that, what we'll be going to do over here, we'll be simply going to create day 6 that we have already created over here. So what we'll be going to do, some things basically data lab that we'll be going to cover, and after that a little bit project we'll be basically going to do over here. Okay. So what we'll be going to do over here, we'll be basically simply going to learn. Let me just close all of these tabs over here first of all. All right. So we'll be basically going to understand this thing. What are basically your just 1 second. Yes. What is basically begin, commit, and roll back? Yes, this is the day 5. Yes, this is day 5, but I have basically entered day 6, no problem. If you want, I can even do day 5 over here. Okay, cool now. Okay. So guys, just tell me one thing over here. Have you guys ever heard about begin, commit, and roll back? Okay, is it good now? Is it good now? Okay. Okay. So what we basically do, so we basically have these commands, that is begin, commit, and roll back. So begin is basically state that whenever you are starting a new transaction, then you basically have to do it with a begin. I'll be just going to show you the example with the table also. And commit is basically there. Let us just say what you will be going to do. You'll be just going to save all the changes made during the transaction of the database. So that is basically your commit. And after that, we basically have a rollback. So what rollback actually used to do is that it basically undoes all the changes made during the transaction. All right. So that is basically your commit, begin, commit, and rollback. So one by one, we'll be just going to look into all of these things. Okay. So first, let us just do one thing. We basically have created day 5 over here. So we'll be simply going to create day 5, one table that is going to be accounts, because we are working on transaction over here. And simply we'll be basically going to insert some data over here. The data will basically going to look like this. That is going to be your day 5 dot accounts. and these things, and I'll be simply going to execute it. Okay, and after that I'll be simply going to refresh it, and I'll be just going to look into my this one day 5 table. I'll be just going to click, I'll be just going to click on this accounts one, so I'll be like able to see this thing, that this is basically my table over here that I have just created. For now I have just created 2 records only. If you want, you can like insert multiple records over here also. All right, now let me just say one more record if you basically want to. Okay, we have to create it again. All right, so after that what we'll be basically going to do, let's just say this is this thing that we have did. Now the first thing that we'll be going to do over here, that is transfer funds between accounts. Let us just say if someone is basically going to tell you that you basically have to you basically have to do something for transferring funds between the accounts. So right now we basically have these things only. So how we'll be going to write this thing? Begin and commit. Let me just show you that over here. So let's just remove this one, and over here I'll be just going to write my next query only. So it will basically going to look like this. So on the begin, you basically have to write begin. All right, and after that you basically have to write subtract 200 from Alice accounts. We basically have Alice, the balance is 1000, and we have Bob, the balance is 1500, and the account ID is 1 and 2. All right, now after that we have basically going to do set balance is equal to balance minus 200, where account ID is equal to 1, because we are working with Alice account. Okay, so this is the one thing that we are basically going to do. And after like subtracting, what we are basically doing, we are again like adding on it. Okay, update accounts, set balance, where balance plus 200, where account ID is equal to 2. So what we are doing, the account ID one that we have, we will be going to subtract 200 from this one, and the where we have the account ID which is 2, which the amount is 1500, we'll be just going to add 200 in it. So let's just simply execute. And after that, if I'll be just going to look into the table, so just see this thing now. It is basically or this thing. Now the LS account balance is 800 and Bob balance is 1500. All right. Now, similarly, what basically I have to do over here, let us just say we have basically did this thing. Now, but let us just suppose one thing, if any part of this transaction fail, okay, like let us just say if there is any error we will be basically going to get for updating any kind of a bank account. So obviously at that time, our rollback should be necessary for reverting the changes that we have did. If you will be going to get some kind of error and it has basically made changes in other accounts, in some accounts, but it failed to but it failed to make changes in some accounts. So at that time, for sure, you have to do the rollback, that you basically have to do undo all the things. Okay. So let us just say one thing now, what we'll be basically going to do over here. This query that we have, now we'll be basically going to do one thing. Subtract 200 from Alice accounts, and similarly an error will be basically going to get over here. Let's just say set balance is equal to balance funded 200, where account ID is 999. So do you think there is a account ID that is 999? There is no account ID, right? So first, let's just try to execute it. And after that, we'll be just going to look into it, that how we can solve this particular error. So let's just execute it. So we have successfully executed it. And after that, I'll be just going to look into the table. So just see this thing now. Okay. Just see this. So when there was like no account ID, okay, so it has basically did a rollback over here. Got it? But let's just say one thing, guys. How many of you are aware about handling errors with rollback? How many of you are aware about handling errors in SQL? Okay, like I was basically executing it, but error it is basically given. But how I can basically handle this error? Yes, Chitra, I'll be going to share all of these queries in one doc, all the things that we have seen from the day one to the day last. But is there anyone who is aware about handling errors in SQL? No? Anyone else? Have you ever, okay, in Python or like let us just say in Java, if you guys are basically learning it, have you ever did error handling? Have you ever did error handling? Yes. Ayushman, I am talking about try and catch only. So in Python also we have try and accept. Okay. Those who are learning Python, can I get a thumbs up in chat? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we'll be basically going to do over here, guys, that we'll be basically going to do this thing, begin try. And after that, what we'll be going to do over here? Okay. And after that, what we'll be basically going to do over here, we'll be just going to mention begin transaction. And after that, what we'll be going to do, that we are like being the transaction, and after that we basically have update accounts, that is basically in my day 5, and we have like set balance is equal to balance minus 200, where account id is basically 1. Same thing we have basically did over here, like we are updating it on the account id 2. So as we'll be able to see, that right now I basically have account ID 1 and account ID 2 only. Okay. So right now we basically have account ID 1 and account ID 2 only. Uh, just give me 1 second. So right now we basically have account ID 1 and 2 only. And so we have basically mentioned this thing basically only over here, that where account ID is basically 2. So at that time you basically have to add the balance, and I can basically say if, all right. Yeah. So if what it will basically going to do, it will basically go, this is the begin try, that you are basically trying these things, and over here you are ending it. But let us just say if it will going to give any kind of a error. So that thing will come in catch. Okay. So that thing will basically going to come in catch. All right. Understood, guys, till now? So that is how basically your try and catch basically works over here. Now, just tell me one thing, guys. Have you ever heard about create table or create table? We have basically did. But what is this alter table and drop table? What is alter table and drop table? Have you ever heard about it? Yeah, right. So we basically have this concept that is create table, alter table, and drop table. So create table is basically what? Create table is where you will be going to create a table. Like we have basically created multiple tables. All right. Like we was creating a table from the day one. And alter table is basically what? Let's say you have created a table, but you basically want to make some changes in it. So at that time, what you will be going to do? You will be simply going to update that particular thing. And drop will completely going to delete the table. Right? So let's just, this is like a creating a table that you guys are basically creating table over here. So let's just create it. And after that, let's just do one thing. Let's just refresh it. Now we basically have an employees table. Now each and every value is one, because what we have basically did over here is that we have basically created these columns over here, right? Now let us just say you basically want to make some changes in it. Let us just say if I want to add a column in it, will I be able to add a column or not, guys? If I want to add a column in it, can I add a column if I have already created a table? Right now we have this much: employee ID, first name, last name, department ID, salary, hire date. Let's just say I want to create one column, email ID. So I'll be able to create it or not? Okay, yes, you can. The Archangel is saying yes. Okay. Okay. So for creating a table, a column, what you have to do is you just have to do alter table, day5.employees, add email, where the data type will be this thing, string only or varchar. And after that, we'll be simply going to execute it. Now let's just look into the employees table again. So just see this thing. Previously, it was still hire date only. But now we have set it to email also over here. Similarly, if you basically want to change this thing, modify a column, let's just say salary is basically there. So we basically want to change the data type of it. So that thing you can basically also do over here. That is day5.employees, modify column, salary decimal 12,2. And let's just execute it. So I'll be simply able to change the data type of it also. Now let's just say if I have created a column, let's just say email column, I have created it. So can I delete this column also? So the answer is yes. Now, day 5, alter table day5.employees, drop column email. Now let's just again look into it. hire date, salary. Now there is no email. All right. Yes, right, guys. So this is how you can basically alter the table over here if you basically want. Now let's just say if I basically want to I basically want to delete this table. So how I'll be able to delete it? It is like really simple. Otherwise, you can like directly click over here. Employee is there, click over here. From here, you can basically drop the table. If you don't want it, just do employee. So day 5 dot employees and simply will be going to drop it. Cool. So this is how you can basically use create over here. This is how you can basically use, I can basically say alter table, drop table and create table. Okay. Beginning that we basically have that basically ranges between like 9, 2 to 3 and all. So if I just talk about when you basically going to use it. So tiny that we have that basically ranges between 0 to 255. Okay. And if I just talk about the major changes in it. So the small int that we will be going to create that will going to store less storage. The storage that it will basically going to take that will be less. But if you will be going to use int, then it will be basically going to take more space. So let's just say when you are basically using small values, at that time you will be going to use tiny int. And if you are using a large values, at that time you will be going to use big int. Now, so this is how you can basically create, alter and drop tables, right? Now, there are some things basically there that will be even going to understand. Let's just say mini project that we basically have to do, right? So just give me 1 second over here. Do you guys have any kind of a confusion till now, guys? If yes, you can ask me. Yes, we are dropping the table if you are deleting it. So what we'll be going to do for now is, have you guys ever heard about uh, create view and drop view in SQL? Have you guys ever heard about create view and drop view? All right. Okay. Okay. So let us just say Yes, you can basically consider these things. So it is basically nothing. If I just talk about what is basically your create views and all, it is nothing but it just simplifies complex queries for you. Okay. Instead of, I can basically say, the long queries that you will be going to write, you will be just basically going to write a small queries at that time. Okay. Now, so let's just focus on these things first only. That is basically mentioned over here. It is basically nothing. Just see, mini project is basically nothing over here. But what we'll be going to do is the all the queries that we have seen till now, just the same queries we'll be going to use over here. Like nothing new that we'll be basically going to look into. All the things we are just the things that we have seen, we'll be going to apply that in this mini project. Okay. So let us just say what we'll be basically going to do. We'll be going to have three databases. We'll be going to have three databases. The first one is basically going to be information about the books. One database will be there, which will be going to have the information about the books. The second database that we'll be going to have, that will going to have information about members. Let me just write all of these things. Okay. Now, so first thing that we'll be going to do over here, the first, this will going to have information about books. The second one will basically going to be information about the members. Okay, like you can basically consider, if I am talking about members, so you can like easily consider name, address, phone number and all. So you can consider name, number, email and all. Okay, and whenever I'm talking about information about book, so it can have any kind of a data. Let's just say title is basically there, author is basically there. Okay, on like which date it was like published. Okay, date or like year or anything. And third thing that we'll be going to do over here, I'll be going to share all of these things, don't worry. Now the third one is basically going to be, yes. Okay, now the third one that we'll be going to use is like borrowing records over here. So which will basically going to mention like what was the borrow date, what when someone basically have returned it. Okay, so this is how we'll be basically going to work with these things. Just give me 1 second now. So a simple record we'll be basically going to create the data set that I'll be basically going to use over here. I'll be going to share it with all of you, the code over here, the queries that we'll be going to write over here. So what we'll be going to do first, let us just try to create a table, a schema we'll be basically going to create. So that is going to be your so right now it is like empty. So first we'll be basically going to create a data set over here. Some records will be there. Like we are creating a multiple table over here. So you will be able to understand it in a more wide way, that with in real life also you'll be going to work with 3, 4, 5 tables also. So that's the same thing that we are doing over here. So first we'll be going to create a table. Let us just say my this thing is project, mini project dot books will be basically going to create first. So we have basically created it, and let's just say one more thing we'll be basically going to create over here. Mini underscore project dot members. So this is like a members table that we have created for now. So let me just do one thing. Let me just simply refresh this one. Now, so we basically have in tables, we have three tables, that is books, borrow records, and members. So from the table name only, we'll be clearly able to understand what will going to be inside this particular table. So in real life, whenever you guys are basically, doing this thing, creating a table or something, always try to mention one thing, that the column, or let us just say the table name that you are basically creating, that should have some meaning. It's not like that you'll be just going to create my table, okay, demo table, final table, ABC table. Like this you should never do. Okay. So now some records will be going to insert in books, some records will be going to insert in members, some records will be going to insert in borrow records. So this is basically going to be my mini underscore project. Similarly, for the this thing, we have created inside books. Now we'll be going to create records in members. So this will be like mini underscore project dot members. Similarly, the same thing we'll be going to do with borrow records. So let's just look into this thing first. How these tables are basically looking for now. One table, two table, three table. So this is basically my book. So let me just minimize this one. So you'll be able to see this book one. So it basically have book ID, title, author, publication year, G, and ISBN. That is like a number only. So book, this thing is basically there. Book ID is basically there, right? And then we have this thing, title, author is there, publication is there. Is it a fiction, drama, or what it is? So these all things are basically there. So this is in one table. Now we basically have another table. The name is borrow records. Now it basically have 20 record, but over here we only have 10 records. But we are working with multiple tables over here. So record ID, member ID, book ID, borrow date, return date we basically have. Somewhere the return date is null also. So that is also good, because the real-time data always have something missing, and the data type will be this thing. So the next table that we have, that is members. So what we'll be going to do over here, we have member ID, name, address, we have phone number, we have, and we have email also. So phone number is in basically this format, and email basically over here are like this, and this is the particular address. You can consider this is a street, this thing, a house number and the street name. Okay, Maple Street, Oak Street, and this is nothing. This is basically your house number. All right. So after creating this thing, table and all, what we'll be going to do, we'll be simply going to write the SQL query. Now let us just say if I only have to search, if I have this book table, Right now, I'm just looking into it. So let us just say I only want to look into, I only want to look into title and author. That what is the title of a book and what is the author of the, who is the author of the book. So how I'll be able to do it? Come on, guys, tell me fast. If I have to look into what is the title and who is the author, how I'll be able to do it? What I have to write, guys? After select, what I'll be going to write? Okay, Ashman, like this is basically right. Title, comma, author from all right. So now I'll be only able to see title and author. Let us say I'm basically analyzing it. Okay. Because SQL is not just for storing data and these things, you have to analyze it also. That is the main thing. All right. Now let us just say what I have to do. I have to list all members and their contact informations. Let us just say members is basically their member table. So name, address, phone number, email, basically I'm interested in, but I'm not interested in member ID. So what I can basically do over here, the same thing I can basically do in place of, okay, I'll be simply going to do select name, comma, what is basically my columns, name, comma, let's just say phone number and email I'll be going to look for. Phone number, comma, email from, so just see name, phone number and email I'll be able to get over here. So this is how we'll be going to do it. Now let's just say something complex I basically want to do over here. I basically want to find out, all the books that is borrowed by a specific member. Just see, member ID is basically there. Just tell me this thing really fast, guys. I want to find out all the books borrowed by a specific member. Member ID is there. Book is basically there. All right. Let's just, book is basically there. Remove this one. Member is basically there. Member ID is there and borrowed record is basically there. And books is also there. So I basically want to find out all books borrowed by a specific member. So book ID is there. Which thing is common? Member ID is basically there and borrowed record is basically there. So over here, I'll be going to work with multiple tables. Okay. So what I'll be going to do, select b.title, b.author, br.borrow date, comma, br.return date from mini project.borrow record. We are renaming borrow record as br. Now we are doing join books. B on br.book ID is equal to b.book ID. So these are basically what? These are my table. So what I have did b.title, b is basically what over here. Okay. we are considering it by a book table. BR is there, that is your borrow record. All right. And whenever we are doing this M is basically representing your members. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Mini project dot members, we basically have borrow records, we basically have. What is the problem over here? Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I think no, as is basically no, as we basically don't have to write over here. Okay. All right. So over here now you will be able to see select B dot title, B dot author. Like from a book, we are basically doing these things. And we'll be able to, over here we have basically even mentioned a statement where M dot name, M is basically what? Member. Just for a specific member we are looking for, we have mentioned Alice Johnson we are looking for. Alice Johnson. Let us just say if you basically want to look for Bob Smith. So what you will be going to do at that time, you will be just going to simply do it with the Bob one. Okay. So this was basically the thing. In the previous one, what we have did is, guys, we forgot to mention the mini project in some of the records. That's why. Okay. Now, and after that, what we'll be basically going to do over here, guys, like over here, we will be easily able to get we was basically easily able to do these things, and we'll be able to do that this particular name where m dot name Alice Johnson is basically there, the grade, this thing, that book name is this one, author was this one, borrow date was this thing, and return date was this thing. Now if I just consider this title 1984, the author was this the one, but return date is empty. That there might be two cases. The first thing, either the value is missing, or the second case is the particular person, Alice Johnson, has not returned this book till now. All right. This can basically be the reason over here. Now, let us just say if I basically have to do count the number of books and in each category. What if I basically have to do count this thing from, let us just say mini underscore project dot books. So what I am doing, select gene dot count star, all things we are counting as number of books. So let us just say if I have a friction, so it basically have 3 book, romantic is basically romance basically have 1, modernistic is basically have 1, epic is basically 2, adventure is basically 1. So these are the things. So over here, what we are doing, we are just analyzing it only. Now, if I basically want to find out, let's just say my question is, if I basically have to find out, I basically have this a book record. So there is a like borrow date is basically their member is okay, phone number, address. In books, we basically have publish year. So I basically want to find out what was the average year where most of the books was published. Okay. So what we can do over here? So just see this. They are like saying average year is this thing, but it is not a right thing, just an average thing we are calculating over here. All right. So this is basically how, let us just say one more question if you basically have to do over here, guys, is you basically want to find overdue books, books that have not been written within 30 days. Return date, the book which are not written in 30 days. So which query will be going to use over here? If you remember, I have shown you one query. Okay. That was related to date one. Now, can anyone basically tell me what was that? Date and where. Okay, you are saying that we should use date and where, right? R date, okay. Cur date, you are basically saying, okay. So what we'll be going to do, if we have to find out one thing, that overdue books, book that have not been written within 30 days. So we'll be simply going to do this thing. Select m.name, b.title. So what we are doing over here, we are just using date div cur date. That is, obviously we are using cur date, comma, borrow date. And which are like greater than 30. Books which are not written within 30 days. Okay. So just see this thing. These are the records. Bob is there, Abby is there, Hannah is there, which has not written this particular book, and borrow date was this thing. So obviously cur date we are using, and we are using a date difference over here because we have to calculate the difference. All right. So all the things that we have seen in this session from day 1 to day 5, I'll be going to share all the link by mentioning the name that this is day 1, day 2, and all the things I'll be going to share with all of you. So you guys can practice from your own. So guys, do you have any kind of a confusion till now? Okay. So all the things that we have seen over here, I'll be going to share each and everything in a particular docs. So you guys will be able to do this thing. Okay. Yeah. So I can basically say this is it about today's session, guys. This was it. So I'll be going to share each and everything so you guys can basically have a look into it. Okay. So just give me 1 second. So this is it for today's session, guys. Hope you have enjoyed the session. Okay. That is also mentioned in the one link. So bye bye, guys. Then take care, each and everybody, and keep doing the practice. Okay, guys. Then bye bye. Good night to all. Take care, guys. Bye bye.